Welcome back. This is Devo1099 with Fantasy Football Backers, heading into Premier League Game Week 38, the last week of the season. I've got Nick, or Bigo1, with me again this week. He was nice enough to join us. Nick and I are getting ready for the Mondogoal final. That's what we're going to be focusing on here. Nick has 10 tickets. I have 2. So between us, we have 12, which is sort of like saying, between Bill Gates and I, we have several $billion. But Nick, let's get right to it. I know it's a little late over there in the UK. How are you feeling about Sunday?
Hey Tom, not that good now, but I guess it will get better tomorrow. Hopefully. Waiting for all the team news. I think everything will get easier when all the press conferences will be gone by tomorrow. I guess it will all be about trying to find values in probably players that haven't played a lot so far, but might get a chance, especially for the big teams like Arsenal, Chelsea, etc. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow Mourinho, Wenger, and we'll open up a bit and we'll know far more about Sunday.
I don't know if that's something you can count on or not, but I suppose we'll
Probably
see.
not. Probably not.
I think it'll be very interesting because it may turn out that, like you said, there's going to be a lot of squad rotation and a lot of value. It may be too much value to the point where you start looking at some of the more expensive players that you normally weren't going to even touch. Like, maybe you were worried about Aguero against Southampton or something like that, and now you're sitting there with 18 million in one forward spot. I think it could be complicated. It could be very complicated to come up with a good team.
Yeah, especially I think most of the people will focus on just 1 hour before when we get official lineups, and there will be a lot of panics, some moves that you wouldn't expect to do, and then you see 1 hour just before, and a player starts, and you would never consider him, but all of a sudden you just put him in your team because this thing is just cheap. It's a lot of overreactions, I guess, possibly. So it's gonna be interesting. Hopefully, I mean, the more rotation, etc., the better it is, because it opens up a lot of different scenarios, and hopefully with 10 tickets, it's the right way to anticipate it, and hopefully make sure that you can cover as much as you can.
Yeah, well, it'll be unfortunate because we know that Mondogoal is going to improve their tools for next season in terms of their lineup tools, exporting, importing, swapping players. But you're not going to have that Sunday. You're going to have a pretty hectic hour with 10 teams, particularly if there is a lot of squad rotation. So I don't know if you're going to plan on creating these teams in advance or not. I don't know what the answer is. It's going to be really difficult for you to manage 10 teams. And Mondogoal's site can be a little bit cumbersome when you're trying to move players in and out and edit your lineups. But you've done it before, so I think you're going to be okay. And I hope things go well. It's going to be exciting, and somebody's going to be crowned champion at the end. So let's go to Game Week 38, starting with Arsenal hosting West Brom at the Emirates. We saw Arsenal gave a nice gift draw to Sunderland. Arsenal actually, they had a lot of chances in that match. Sunderland may have had better chances in that match. There were a few times that when I was watching it, I was kind of shocked that Sunderland wasn't able to score. West Brom coming off a 3-0 win against Chelsea, but the odds makers are unswayed by this. Arsenal still entrenched as a heavy favorite, one of the most likely teams to keep a clean sheet, most likely team to score 2+ goals. How are you going to handle this one?
Yeah, I think I agree with the bookies, as usual, I would say. lots of people will indeed focus on West Brom defense. They've been great. Having said that, I watched most of the games, and they were quite fortunate in many occasions to not concede, to be honest. I know it's all about the police effect, etc. But at the end of the day, I would expect Arsenal to score at least one, if not two. Arsenal in the last two were on the other end of lucky. To be honest, if they score after 5-10 minutes, which sometimes they should do, it changes the whole game. And when they come up at halftime with 0-0, you can see them going down from there, and it changes everything. So if Arsenal manage to get a goal after, like, in the first half an hour, I think I agree with the bookies that it could end up like 2 or 3-0, and there will be values in the Arsenal squad, because lots of people will just forget about Arsenal strikers and midfields for many reasons. And yeah, I'm quite bullish on Arsenal for those two reasons. I think they've been quite unlucky, and I think a lot of people would just not buy any of those guys, which will make them differentials in a game at home versus West Brom. So
yeah.
So,
well, I guess so. We're not looking at West Brom, so that leaves Arsenal. So Ospina is £9 million. I haven't touched him in quite some time. I don't plan on using him there particularly. There's some very good values, and I think that, you know, with the goal final is structured, it's pretty top heavy. So yeah, I think it's going to take, you know, getting 5, 6, 7 goals into your lineup, and, you know, at the same time also getting clean sheets from teams that you're not paying for them. So to me, you know, Ospina, Courtois, you're looking at 9 and 10.4 million. Those players can't get double their value, and it's going to take, you know, I'm guessing in the neighborhood of 125, 150 points, depending on the game week shakes out. Yeah. I think you're costing yourself a lot of potential upside if you're taking a keeper that is that expensive. So for me, Ospina's not a consideration. You know, looking at defenders, Bellerin's decent at 7-8. Because he does have that goal-scoring potential or an assist. I think he had a healthy number of crosses last week. But, you know, again, with defenders, I don't think I'm touching anybody remotely expensive unless I think they can score goals. So Koscielny's out for me. Monreal is strangely expensive. So that moves me to midfield, and these are interesting. So one player I was looking at, he had, I think that's something like 150 completed passes in the last matches. Cazorla, and you've got set piece duty and you've got penalties. Yeah. He hasn't done anything in so long in terms of goals and assists that I think that he's going to be overlooked. He does play a little bit deeper, but at the same time, you know, we expect Arsenal to have most of the ball. I think Cazorla is going to make it onto one of my teams. Ozil and Ramsey are both interesting as well. Wilshere didn't do much to earn another start, but I think Coquelin will be back personally. But those guys, those three, Ozil, Cazorla, and Ramsey, all pretty interesting to me. And then, you know, depending on who, I think Alexis will play, and then depending on Giroud and Walcott, I think those two. Giroud in particular, I think, may be overlooked just because he's been in a bit of a goal drought. I think he could get rested. Walcott could be a nice differential. What are you looking at in terms of attack for Arsenal?
Yeah, no, I agree with Cazorla. He has a very high floor. I think he was the best Arsenal player not against Sunderland, but against Swansea, so like a week ago. I like him. It's not as expensive as he used to be. He used to be 15 million. Now he's back to 13. So I agree. I think it will be in one or two lineups of mine. Özil, I like Özil because he passes a lot. He gets fouled. The only problem is he doesn't score. And at Mondogoal, that's what you need. You need the 9 points
Yeah.
for scoring. So it's a tough one on Özil. It's a good differential because normally he's not owned a lot, but it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, you'd almost need 2 assists, or at least
exactly.
several shots on goal, or something like that.
But he never shot, so it's yeah, that's a problem. I mean,
well, he took a few shots against Sunderland. He just fired him about 40 yards over the goal.
Yeah, his passing is amazing, but the rest, the goal threat is not there.
I think you like Giroud, okay.
I like Giroud if he starts because for a game at home against West Brom, I can see him being owned by less than 10% of the field because and that's perfect. It's like this deep, like he hasn't been in like he has been quite bad in the last 3 weeks, but before that it was great. So
yeah,
it's exactly what you need in terms of like this kind of top, as you said, it's very top heavy. So what you want is to find this striker less than 10 million that will score you 2 goals and be owned by 10%. So
exactly.
So I like him, definitely.
He almost scored against Sunderland. He had a really nice nice kind of back heel that would have been a beautiful goal if he scores that.
And you mentioned that player.
Yeah, and I think Walcott's very interesting if he does end up playing over Giroud, because not only is Walcott a good play himself, but as we mentioned, Cazorla, Walcott is just so fast, and these West Brom defenders aren't. I think they could end up fouling him in the box and getting Cazorla a penalty, which, those are the type of plays that are really going to make the difference in this final. But all right, we've still got 9 more games to go here, so let's move on. We both love Arsenal this week.
Yeah.
We hope that they're not too popular. There's so few teams that have anything to play for, so those aren't going to be factors so much as just hoping that you predict the right players that'll get 90 minutes or at least 75 and have some chances. So Arsenal fits that mold well. Next, I've got Villa hosting Burnley. Burnley showed some fight in their last match at Turf Moor in the Premier League last week. Villa's been playing great. They've still got the FA Cup to worry about. They're safe from relegation. Burnley away from home has been a pretty bad defense all year. So, I assume you're looking at a good number of Villa players. Benteke, maybe Delph, though he's a bit expensive. Bakuna is an interesting defender because he's been giving some service to Benteke. I think they'll go with Given again in goal, and because he was so awful last week, his price has come down quite a bit. He's down to 5.3. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Villa will be quite popular, and probably for the right reasons. I'm not sure they're very happy with their performance last week. They have an FA Cup to prepare as well, so they will be fully focused on the game. Maybe they have nothing to play for. I mean, they're safe, etc. But I think in their mind they have to prove something to not go to the FA Cup with like two bad games. So I mean, the defense is quite cheap, and against Burnley, as you said, it's a no-brainer really. I think they will be very popular though. So for GPP, I mean, it's not too bad, but for GPP,
yeah,
you could go either way. You could go. I guess they will be the most popular defense, probably actually, because they both combine, like they're very cheap, and they face a very bad team. So
Alan Hutton came back last week. He's 6.9 million.
Yeah, he was not
Like him?
that great,
Yeah.
but I think Richardson is back as well. So I'm not sure. I don't know if he plays. If he, I mean, we'll see the lineup, so it's not a big deal. If he plays, definitely is a good player. Bakuna is definitely there.
Mhm.
Vlar is very cheap. Okay, is quite expensive, but he never fouls. So that's a good thing. So the whole defense is basically, I mean, I can't think of any reasons to not go with any of those guys.
Except that
Except
they'll
that,
be popular.
yeah, exactly. So, but
As a
I'm not sure.
differential, if so, I know that you're a contrarian. So
Yeah,
as a differential, how far would you go? So if you're planning on Villa being popular, would you go as far as selecting Danny Ings on one team where you don't have any Villa defenders?
uh, I for I think Ings might be the only Burnley guy I will have, and that will be
Hmm.
in max one team. I'm not even sure, because I
Yeah,
like Ings, but on the other hand, as you said, I'm contrarian, so I'm not gonna go as big on Aston Villa defense as the rest. So if Ings
yeah,
scored and I don't have Ings, at least I don't have as much Villa defense as the rest. So I'm kind of, I don't need
right.
to double up on like Burnley scoring.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
so
sense. And I can't imagine that Ings scoring will hurt us.
yeah, exactly.
I can't
So
imagine too many people will take him. So at least we'll benefit off of Villa losing some clean sheets.
yes.
But yeah, you don't need to double down there and then end up with a 3-point outing from Ings. All right, that game's not all that interesting. Villa's Villa's going to be popular,
Yeah.
but I don't know. They're still Villa to me. I don't know how much I want to be risking on them in the last week here.
Yeah, I think
All right,
that's
so
exactly contrary to Arsenal. People will go Villa, and will just fade Arsenal, I think. And I'm not sure I
yeah,
agree with it. But we'll see.
yeah, I certainly don't agree with it. All right, next match is Chelsea at Stamford Bridge hosting Sunderland. Sunderland's up. They're safe now. They're horrible. Chelsea coming off a match where they looked pretty bad against West Brom. They sort of embarrassed themselves with Fabregas getting a red. Mourinho afterwards mentions that the only reason that they played so poorly and were undisciplined is because the rest of the league couldn't challenge them. Do you think that they pull it together for one last show at Stamford Bridge in their title-winning season, or are they just going to go through the motions again?
Well, it could go either way. It's very hard to predict. I I think. I mean, it all depends on the lineup. So you really have to see what Mourinho will come up with. There will be values probably, definitely.
We know no Fabregas will be in there.
Well, Fabregas apparently Hazard is out as well. So
Oh
Quadrado is
yeah,
expensive.
he got his wisdom teeth out.
Yeah, he couldn't wait until Monday to do
He
that.
can't
By the
even
way.
go and accept any awards. I read that right before.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's hard to see like.
Well, and Oscar is going to be out as well. Does that mean Willian and you think Quadrado? But Quadrado is just still so expensive on Mondogoal. You can't justify him, and he's shown nothing in the Premier League so far.
Yeah, that's why it's tough. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if Diego Costa starts, it could be a good play. He's 11 million.
Mm.
He will play only 60, 65 minutes. So that's the issue. But at least
Yeah,
it's hard
you got to
because
figure they'll give Drogba a few minutes as his
yeah,
farewell
if Drogba
to
starts, why
Chelsea.
not? I like Drogba if he starts because it's very cheap.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can't predict. It all depends on the lineups. If you see values there, then go for it because clearly Chelsea is a good team.
Well,
Um,
I think
if
that
it's
as the season has shown us, though, when Chelsea plays without Alfred and without Fabregas, they have so much trouble generating any sort of attack. Um,
yeah,
I don't know. I may leave this whole match alone. We'll see. Like you said, we'll see what the lineup comes with,
yeah,
and if there's value there, then we can look at it. But Remy's too expensive for me. Um, Costa, I think Costa's hamstring is still shot. He showed nothing in the West Brom match that would
I was
make me
terrible.
confident using him now. You've got the privilege of having 10 teams, so maybe you throw him on one team, but he certainly won't be a focus of mine. As we mentioned, Courtois is too expensive. The Chelsea defenders are still pretty expensive based on the
Yeah,
rest of their season, but there could be some squad rotation that opens up uh, some
I think,
potential there. But
yeah, I agree. It really depends on the lineups. I mean, only if you see values, then you should go for it. Otherwise, it's. I mean, you pay already for the upside. It's already priced
yeah,
in.
it's all.
So
I totally agree, and there's plenty of other matches that could get interesting. I don't think this one will be one of them.
yeah,
All right, let's go to Palace against Swansea. Um, this one, is one that I normally wouldn't look at very hard, but one of those matches that is the last week of the season. Um, if Palace or Swansea have anything to gain in terms of their position in the table, it's not worth a whole lot, but sometimes that can motivate. Pardew may want to finish strong here in his last match. What do you think here?
uh, it's kind of one of the game that could go very offensive, and you could see goals. I like this game quite a lot, actually. Not on the defensive side, only on the offensive side. So Palace, I guess the top three, top four, like the Zaha, Bolasie, Murray if he plays, Puncheon,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
those four are correct. I mean, are good plays. All of them are less than 10 millions. I think the most expensive must be 9 million. Um, so I mean, Pardew has been a bit weird with his team in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So you need to make sure they play. But I think they're very good players. On the Swansea
yeah,
side, Gomez is great, but it's so expensive in Mondogoal. That's really a shame because I would love to have some Gomez, but at 13 million, it's hard to justify.
yeah.
Same with Sigurdsson. I like the guy, but his price as a top midfield, and so it's I don't I guess yeah, definitely the Palace strikers or midfield are good plays. The rest I
Yeah,
like, but it's already priced in, so
yeah,
it's
I
it's
agree. I mean, Sigurdsson's been phenomenal. Swansea though, Key's not going to be playing,
yeah,
which I think is going to open up some touches. Um, and Routledge still is out. So there aren't a lot of Swansea attackers left. You're down to Gomez, Sigurdsson, and maybe Montero. Montero's even, I think, if I remember correctly, he was a little more expensive, maybe 7-8.
it's okay.
Um, but Palace's defense has been pretty poor lately. Um,
Yeah,
so it's an interesting match for me. Like you said, Palace's attack, and this is where I think you've got Puncheon, Bolasie, and Zaha can all score. Murray can score as well. And Puncheon, has set pieces. He got 3 assists in one match. They all have the explosion that's necessary to win a GPP. But guessing which player it's going to be is really difficult. So. Um, I think I'll probably have some of that once the lineups are out and we can
yeah.
see, where where they are in the formation. I think that'll be huge. So, all right, let's move to Everton and Tottenham. Another match that seemingly doesn't matter. What do you like about that?
Yeah, this one is a tough one. I don't like much. I mean, it's Lukaku has been good in the last 2 weeks, but again, it's the same as Gomez. They've been great, but they're priced in so high. It's hard to justify Lukaku being more expensive than Benteke, for example. So it's clearly it will be in one of, yeah, definitely in one or two of my teams, probably only one. The rest, the midfield, you don't know really who is gonna start. Miralas is always a good player when he starts, less than 10 million, so why not? I will say is a great GPP player because I don't think a lot of people will be on Miralas. Barkley is already is a good player. For Mondogoal is good as well. He gets fouled a lot. He gets a lot of passes. So he's not a bad play, but his ceiling is quite low. So that's the only problem. And that's pretty much it. I don't think I would touch the defense. It's more expensive than it used to be for no real reasons, to be honest. So that's pretty much it for Everton. For Tottenham is the usual suspects: the Kane, the Eriksen, Shadley. It's they're not top priorities for me. Let's put it that way. I mean, I can't say if you want to put him in your lineup, Kane, Eriksen, put those guys in the lineup. I couldn't say no, but in such a big slate like we have now, with a ton of value opening up soon, it's hard to justify going with these guys. So it's a game I wouldn't be heavy on, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a really tough one for me because both Everton and Tottenham have shown that they can give up 2-3 goals. There's not much to play for. Tottenham's defense in particular has had major issues this year. I guess they're still sort of playing for Europe or whatever. They don't know if that seventh spot will be opened up by Arsenal winning the FA Cup or not. And I don't even know if they'd want to go to Europe that badly. It seems like teams are running away from it despite the money. About Lukaku, he's surprised me this year. He's certainly not. I think he's listed as maybe the third or fourth most expensive striker. He's certainly not the third or fourth most talented striker. But one thing that I do have noted is with Baines out and the kind of conflict they've had with their penalty taker, he did I believe take and make the last one for Everton. I think even when Baines was around. So I would imagine that he is going to be selected there. And Tottenham is very undisciplined at the back. So I think that there's that upside, and Lukaku's passing really well too. So he's one of those guys that has the goal and assist upside. That if you find the right values in defense and midfield, I wouldn't hate playing Lukaku, particularly because there aren't a lot of strikers that I really like that much. I like Aguero, I like Alexis, maybe Giroud, maybe Benteke, but I think I like Lukaku more than Kane personally, particularly since they're at home. But I don't know.
No, I agree. Lukaku, yeah, I agree. Lukaku is better than Kane. Now the question is he better than Benteke? Because it's effectively, if you have one lineup in this Mondogoal final, and you have 13 million, you have a choice between Benteke and Lukaku. And for me, it's hard to justify Lukaku over Benteke. But yeah, I agree with you. All the reasons you said, I'm pretty sure he's number one in terms of.
But the way you think, isn't that all the more reason to take Lukaku? Because so many of the entries that are to be in the final are going to be single entries. I have 2, so I'm pretty close to that. You have 10, so you've got some variety. If it doesn't make any sense to take Lukaku over Benteke, then that's going to keep his ownership pretty
Yeah.
low. And I don't think that he's that much worse an option than Benteke personally. But
yeah, I think it's 50-50. Yeah, I agree. It's 50-50. I still think Benteke is slightly better, but
I agree.
For GPP, yeah, if you are sure that Lukaku will be very low owned compared to Benteke, then definitely Lukaku makes sense. I'm not that sure. The problem is people react to form, and Lukaku did amazing last week, so it will be on the radar of a lot of people just because of last week. I mean, this season he hasn't been good, but just because he was good last week means that some people might say, okay, well, he's back in form, and Lukaku is a very streaky player, so you might say, okay, well, a lot of people might go with Lukaku. Actually, I think you might underestimate the overreaction.
I think that that's a fair point. I guess it's hard to get in the heads of everybody. I guess my argument to that is that when you look at this slate, I don't think, particularly with Tottenham coming off a clean sheet against Hull, I don't think you're looking at Tottenham as a target to take strikers against. I think you would look at Burnley as that. You would look at QPR as that. So we'll see. I think I'll have Benteke on one. I'll have Lukaku on one. That's kind of how I'm going to end.
That's the way to go, I guess.
Yeah.
If you can, yeah. If you have a single lineup, I'm not. I would go.
Yeah.
I would go Benteke over Lukaku.
Yeah.
Marginal, but
I agree. All factors aside, who I think will score more points, Benteke. But
yeah.
All right. Well, now we'll go. We've got a slightly more meaningful game with Hull hosting United. United will be without Rooney, without De Gea. Hull are playing. They must win to have a chance.
Yep.
But they needed to win last week at White Hart Lane and couldn't come through. Does Hull, do they have what it takes to beat United?
Possibly, but the problem is as well is they not only need to win, they need to hope for Newcastle to fail.
Sure. But that's not going to affect them during the match.
Well, it could. If at halftime they see Newcastle up by 2-0, they're just gonna give up. So I mean, they will listen to the crowd as well. I mean, very quickly they will realize if they have a chance or not. And Newcastle doesn't have a bad game, and unfortunately, I mean, I can see Newcastle possibly scoring an early goal or. So I'm not sure. Like betting on Hull being that motivated, etc. is a factor here. It might be another overreaction because they need to score, but they just can't. And
Jelavic maybe, but
the only problem is he will play 60 minutes because he's not fully fit. I like Jelavic, but it's the same. It's like it takes a very, very expensive spot up front. Because as you say, you need to score 120, 125 points, and if one of your striker comes up with 2 points, you're in a bad shape. And clearly Jelavic is a kind of binary option. He's very cheap, but if he scored 2 points, then you will have to come up with a perfect midfield to make it up, and that's not easy to come up with a perfect midfield. Trust me. So I'm not. I'm not sure. I mean, I like to not use my striker spot, like the 3 spots I have on my strikers on very, very volatile options. I mean, I know I'm a contrarian, but on the other hand, people like strikers at 4, 5, 6 millions tend to be priced the way they are priced for a reason, and Jelavic is exactly the same. He can definitely score a brace, but he can be awful. I mean, he fouls a lot. I can see him fouling having a nice battle with the Smalling and the Fellaini of the world, and
Yeah.
he might come up
Then
with a
he
minus
ends up
one.
with a yellow card and
Yeah,
ends
I
up
wouldn't be
ruining.
surprised if Jelavic comes up with a negative outcome. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes up with 20 points either. I mean, it's I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. It's so you have so many good striking options.
Yeah. Too much risk.
Yeah, it's a lot of risk. I mean, it's GP, you need to take risk, but it needs to be calculated as well. So, yeah, not a big fan.
One keeper I was looking at as a differential, based on Rooney being out, based on Falcao being terrible, and the situation they're in is Harper at $6 million. I think he's gonna get some saves. United, their attack is occasionally not very effective. They'll take some shots from outside the box, which are nice, presuming your keeper can stop them. I just think he has some upside. Would you consider Harper for any of your teams?
Yes, it's not a bad idea. Not at all. I guess it's kind of this for a keeper. Indeed, in Mondogoal, you look at who is going to have a clean sheet, but also who is going to make the saves. And if you can combine both of them, you can have a keeper with 15, 16 points. I remember, like against Liverpool a month ago, he had 17 or 18 points because he had 7 or 8 saves, and it could be exactly the same tomorrow. Well, on Sunday, so why not?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, it will definitely not be owned by a lot of people. So
yeah.
So if
he was a keeper I had marked down as someone that could be a big differential and wouldn't be looked at very hard.
No, definitely.
Right on. All right. Next, we've got Leicester hosting QPR. Leicester is staying up. QPR is going down. This match wouldn't be particularly interesting, except that the bookmakers absolutely love Leicester. They're obviously in solid form. They're going to be playing against their home crowd. But figuring out where the goals are going to come from on Leicester, to me, is the biggest challenge because I don't trust Ujoa at all. Vardy, I think, is probably pretty interesting. And then Albrighton, he's not likely to score, but he'll get some crosses. Do you plan on taking much Leicester, or do you think they're going to be too popular to bother?
I think they will be popular. I'm not sure I agree with the bookies. I saw that the mid goals, like in terms of expectation, is 2.2, which is massive. It's more than Man City, for example. So I'm not sure. For once, I agree with the bookies. As you said, it's very hard to predict who is going to score. I mean, even the defense, Schlapp, Morgan, those guys can score. So even if they score 2 goals, it can come from anyone. I'm not a fan, to be honest. I'm not a fan at all. Mostly because they will be too popular, I think. I can see a lot of people with Ujua, a lot of people with Vardy, especially now he's been called up by England today. He's in all the press. I mean, no, I think that they're too popular for what they're worth, really. Now QPR, it depends on which QPR shows up, because if the same QPR, like this, the way they play against Man City was criminal. So hopefully they would pick it up a bit, and they played much better last week against Newcastle. If they play the same way as they play against Newcastle, I'm not a big fan of Leicester players, indeed. I mean, they're good players, but they will be on so much that you will hope that even if one guy goes off, like it could be Vardy, it could be Ujua, etc., all the guys will be massive disappointments, and a lot of teams will be hurt by that. Because as you say, if you pick up the wrong guy, they can come up. I mean, Ujua can come up with I remember I had him like just before he scored a brace, he was awful. He was -1 point, I think, because he fouls a lot. He gets yellow cards. He never shot on target. So a lot of people
And
will have him.
He might play 60 minutes too.
Yeah, exactly. Vardy as well, because he's not fully fit. So why would you play him 90 minutes when he's about to play for England?
Yeah, I think actually I'm more likely to take QPR players in this match because I think that while the bookies certainly favor Leicester, and I think that'll end up having a lot of the Mondogoal managers will be on Leicester, but this is Leicester's first chance to take a breath in almost 2 months. They're up now. There's nothing for them to really play for besides a little victory lap at home. But they're not that great a team. And then you've got Matty Phillips and you've got Charlie Austin who probably don't want to play in Championship and would like to leave a good taste in the transfer market's mouth. So I'm more likely to look at those types of players. I hope that people end up on Schmeichel and some of the Leicester defenders. Trying to guess right on Ulloa and Vardy. I'm probably going to avoid that whole Leicester team, and maybe end up on a guy like Matt Phillips, who he can score a howler. He got a header recently. He can get assists. I think he's a pretty interesting player in the midfield.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Charlie as well. Big Charlie is less than 10 million finally. So. It's a tough one because it's probably the only 2 players who will target. I mean, Phillips and Austin. I don't think I could target anybody else. I mean, Zamora, all these guys are no go for me. So, but definitely Austin and Phillips could be good differentials. I agree. Yes, yeah, definitely.
All right, I think we've got that game covered. Manchester City. The Etihad against Southampton. So this one is very interesting to me because City, the way that they play, they can score on virtually anyone.
Yep.
Southampton has shown that they can play good defense. They don't have their first or second. Well, I guess actually they'll be playing Kelvin Davis in this one. I think I read that for his 300th Southampton match. So that may help a little bit. They may be strangely popular because of what Mane and Long and even our man Pella got one late in that match. I'm not touching anything on Southampton personally. The question is, do you pay up for Aguero against one of the top 3 or 4 defenses that he could go up against, though he is at home? And do you look at Silva? Do you look at Milner, who's been in great form? If Navas gets a start, do you look at him? What about Kolarov? What about Hart? There's so many options on City, but it's not the best matchup. But does that make them more valuable potentially?
I think if I had one ticket, I wouldn't play Aguero because I disagree. I think a lot of people will be on Aguero, especially now that Hazard is not playing. Is the only guy basically above 15 million.
The only place to spend your money, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I think Hazard would have been good because it will have reduced the ownership of Aguero. Now I can see Aguero being over 50% owned. So if I had one team, I wouldn't play Aguero because I don't think it's for 17 million. It will reach value. I don't think so. But for me, I have 10 tickets, so I have to cover all those people with Aguero. So I would definitely have Aguero in a few teams, but only as cover up. I don't believe it will reach value. I don't believe it will score 20 points. He might score 10, 15. Even if he scores a goal, it tends to be around 12 or 13 points. So it needs really to score a brace to reach this value. So I'm not a big fan, but on the other hand, so many people will be on him that have to cover up.
You don't want to lose solely because you don't
because
have Aguero.
He could always score a hat trick. I mean, he's on penalties, so is especially if they play with one strike. If they play with Bonny, in a 4-4-2, then I would definitely not have as many Aguero as I have now. But if he plays the lone striker on penalties, probably will play 80 minutes anyway. I don't think he will reach the value, but if it does, then it kills me if I don't have him. Literally, I mean, so I have to cover up, but that's the only reason I want Aguero.
Makes sense.
Silva is different because he has a high floor. So compared to Aguero, even if it doesn't do anything, I mean, I think last week he had 19 points with 2 assists. So his floor is around 10, 11 points, which is massive. So I will definitely have some Silva because he will be highly owned and he has a high floor. So that's a perfect combination for me. The rest, I think Yaya will be highly owned, but I'm not a fan of Yaya in Mondogoal. So I think I will fade mostly.
He seems difficult to predict.
Yeah,
he can score plenty of points, but guessing when those are going to come, I think, is a challenge.
Yeah, he passes a lot, so he has this high floor, the same as Silva. But Silva's floor is bigger because he tends to at least shoot once or twice on target, and he gets fouled a lot. Whilst Yaya does the contrary, he fouls a lot. He's like negative in terms of contribution for fouls. So I definitely much prefer Silva to Yaya. The rest is difficult. I don't think I mean it depends if I can find the money to upgrade my cheap midfield to Milner or Navas, so to find those 2-3 million, maybe I could definitely, but they are not priorities to me. Milner, Navas, and all these guys, Lampard. They don't
I don't see City's. You know, they're capable of scoring 5 or 6 goals on just about anyone, as they've shown in the last 4 or 5 weeks. I just don't see them doing it against Southampton in a meaningless match. I think Southampton would rather go out with some pride and lose 1-0 or try to manage a draw.
Well, they still have the Europa League spot as well, because if Tottenham loses, then they might grab it. So I think they will be more motivated than City. City has nothing to play for now. They guaranteed to be second. So I think like a lot of City players will be highly owned, and I would definitely be less positive on any of those players, from Kolarov to Silva to Aguero. I will own them because they will be so highly owned that you need to cover up a bit, but that's the only reason. I'm not super positive. I'm the same as you. It could end up with a 1-1 or 2-1, and nobody reaches value effectively.
They won't reach value at that. All right, so next match, the other match that has some some importance this week. There aren't many. Is Newcastle hosting West Ham. I actually like a good bit of Newcastle, from their defense to Krul, who I don't know if you notice is 3.7 million, which is he could let up 2 goals and reach value at that. And West Ham will fire off some shots, but their attack has been so poor. Downing scored last week. I know he's one of your guys. But I like Newcastle in this match a lot. I love Sissoko. I like Cabela, though he's too expensive. If Cisse starts, he may only play 60 minutes, but Cisse starts, I'm playing Cisse. And then even Janmaat and Ryan Taylor, they're pretty inexpensive. Could get a clean sheet or 1 goal allowed. Will be on the attack. I think there's a lot of value in Newcastle, and I don't know if, considering they haven't won in, almost 2+ months, I can't imagine too many managers will be excited to take more than 1 or 2 Newcastle players. I think I'm going to have 4 on one of my teams. Yeah, I do.
Well, the problem with Krul is too cheap. and I think a lot of people will notice it, and it will be the highest owned like keeper, I
Do you
guess,
think so?
in the
Okay.
I think so in the final, just because it's so cheap. Him and Given will be very highly owned because
Right.
it's
They're below
3.7 and
below 6
5.2.
million.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, definitely. As you said, you don't care if he concedes a goal because it will reach value in any case. I mean, the only problem is if he gets a red card. That's the only way it doesn't reach value really. So so it is definitely a good player. The problem is, as you say, like exactly, people will not go Harper or Valdez or those keepers, and we'll all go with Krul. So it will be too highly on for me to have in a lot of teams. But I still have. I mean, it's still the best value keeper for sure on the slate.
Yeah.
The
I think
diff.
I think I'll have him on one team. I think I may have him on one team and Harper on the other.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know if I agree. I guess we have seen as the season has gone on that people will take the lowest price keeper that they don't think is going to let up 3 goals, and I suppose Krul qualifies at that this week.
yeah,
But it depends on if the budget is going to really demand that you need to go that cheap at keeper. You know, as you mentioned, Hazard's not available. Aguero's the only player above 15 million. You know, so people may end up with money left over, and I think that people look at Krul and think that he's not any good. You know, with their final shot, with trying to win the championship here, I think that you're going to see people a little more reluctant to take Krul than you're anticipating in
okay.
a typical week.
Yeah, it's possible. I still think it will be very highly on, but
He
I,
is, yeah, 3.7 is
if you
3.7. That's not bad.
yeah, if you have two teams and you play him in once, basically you just cover the field. I think it will be close to 50% on. Um, but
All right.
as I say,
Just take,
it's so cheap that you can't get wrong. So that's a good thing. So I agree with you.
yeah.
But if you take Harper, it could go either way. It could end up with 0 point, or it could end up with 15. And if he ends up with 15, then you have a massive differential for a keeper, which for 2 million is really worth it as well. So
Mhm.
that's the reason I won't go cruel and basically hope that Newcastle will concede to West Ham, even if it's not a given. Let's put it that way. But
Yeah. Well,
um,
maybe Downing will come through for you because I'm sure you'll have
I
him
hope
on
so. I
a
will have
couple
him.
teams.
Yeah, I will have him in a couple of teams. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Let's move on to Stoke and Liverpool, our last match. Um,
Yeah,
you know, not particularly interesting to me. I suppose Liverpool win this. You know, the whole Sterling controversy has really boiled over with his agent today saying that he wouldn't play for Liverpool next year. This is just becoming a circus. I don't know if Sterling at 20 years old is mature enough to overcome all this and play well, or if he'll be put in a position to succeed. You know, he hasn't really done much recently, anyhow. Um, we love Coutinho, but he's gotten relatively expensive. The Gerrard story is coming to a close. You know, I guess if he got a penalty, he could pay off his value, but he's expensive. I think Henderson's someone I'll look at. And then if they start Lambert, if they start Ibe, but I don't know. I don't like this game very much. What about you?
no, I don't like it. I think I will definitely have zero Stoke. That's as much as I
It's not
trust
difficult.
them. Is yeah, zero.
Not a difficult decision to make.
Liverpool, as you said, I got burnt by Gerrard last week, so I won't go back anymore. I don't think he played well at all. He's very deep now, and as you said, you rely on a free kick or probably more a penalty. Which, I mean, when you pay 13 million, it's not really worth
No.
it. No, I don't see any. I don't see anyone here. Sterling, he's still 11 million. He hasn't done anything in the last 3 months. I'm not even sure he will play, to be honest. They might want to protect him.
Yeah.
So.
Or punish him.
Yeah.
Okay, here we're gonna close since this is not a very anticlimactic match. Let's close with the most exciting player in the Premier League. What if Balotelli starts? 5.9 million.
5.9. Well, if he starts, I would prefer him to Jelavic. Yeah. So I probably have one Jelavic in my 10 team, and if Balotelli starts, I would probably have 0 Jelavic and put Balotelli. I won't go that long, more long than that. 1 out of 10 is already way too long for Balotelli. But
right. And Lambert will come in for him regardless.
Lambert, I'll fade. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that that wraps up Game Week 38. It's going to be a strange week. It's going to be a very strange week. I think that, with 10 entries, you're going to end up in very good shape if it does end up being a strange week, because you'll be able to cover some of the players that other managers won't be able to get to. I think that you're going to have a pretty hectic Sunday trying to sort out where you're going. Hopefully we'll get some more information tomorrow.
Yes.
But it's going to be fun. Thanks to the Mondogoal team for a great season, putting together a good final. I know that it was a reach at the time that they decided to do this £30,000 final, but hopefully they're happy with the results and ready for some improvements during the summer and ready for next season. Nick, thanks for joining us. Best of luck Sunday.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'm sure we'll be playing some Women's World Cup on Mondogoal over the summer when we get really desperate. But until then, best of luck to you. I hope I hope I win. Let's be honest. But if not, I hope you win. So for fantasy football backers, this is Devo1099 and Bigo1. See you next season.